You could leave it for 2 hours, Beach.
Evening is 6:05 p.m. This is the winter. This is meeting of the Smithfield Township Board of Supervisors. We do an exciting the pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Members present include myself, Chair Jason Pride, Vice Chair Robert Oppenheim, Supervisor Michael There, Township Manager Julia Hylica, Admin Coordinator Diana Salvi, and Engineer John Tressler. Solicitor Karasak is excused for the evening. First order of business is we had a standing executive session this evening from 5:30 p.m. to 5:55 p.m. regarding personnel and litigation and back 9 matter. Second, there's a Riverside Bike Park Committee meeting to be held tomorrow, August 28th at 6 p.m. We're here. And once again, our Township Trunk or Treat and Fall Fest is going to be held on October 26th, 2024 from 1 to 4. All those events are on our website. And just a reminder, this will be the last said reminder, the Board of Supervisors meeting schedule is now the second and fourth Tuesday of each month. We have minutes from July 16th, 2024, the emergency meeting, and the August 13th, 2024 regular meeting.
Motion to approve the minutes from July 16th and August 13th. Oh, good.
Actually, well, so I'll entertain a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Or Diana, did you do the second set? Just make sure you change at the top, the township planning commission, just change the heading there. Alright, with that noted, all in favor?
Alright.
Aye. Okay, bills and obligations. Ratifying from August 22nd, the amount of $35,108.01 from the general fund. In consideration today of $329,805.71. Of which $45,302.22 is from the general fund. $28,521.03 from the liquid fuels fund. $6,079.46 from the escrow fund, and of course, the capital improvement grant fund, $214,794.99. Julie will explain what that's for in a second, but it's nothing to be alarmed about. It was part of Green Light Go. As the solicitor's not here, we're going to proceed without the solicitor's report, so we'll go right to John.
Okay, thank you, Jacob. Not a lot has transpired.
Actually, I'm sorry, hold on, we didn't vote, we didn't even vote.
I was gonna say, what's
I'm
going
really doing rocket ducks, hold on, do I have a motion on the bills?
on? Motion to ratify the bills from 8/22 and to approve the bills from 8/27.
Sorry about that. Any questions?
Well, what is that? Yeah, how was the 214 is all 100% Green Go? Green Go.
The 214 is actually a reimbursement to the general fund, I believe it is, give me one moment.
It says Middle Smithfield.
Oh, okay. Part of my township manager report is that we just received a check for $388,000. That is for Green Light Go. Because Middle Smithfield and us are splitting the bills as they come in, only a portion of that was due, so we deposited the entire check. And that $214,000 to Middle Smithfield Township is their portion of the reimbursement due to them.
Okay. That's just, we're past through that right?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah, that's all those comments.
there you go. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Sorry for my rocket docket. John, now you can chat with us.
Well, as I started to say, Jacob, not a lot has transpired, in the engineering viewpoint since the last meeting. We did have our status meeting this morning regarding Green Mountain Drive Bridge. I think we got past one hurdle, which was how we're to coordinate with PennDOT and what their review process is going to be. We've got that all straightened out, and it is going to be a streamlined process through PennDOT, so that's good news.
What is streamlined mean? I know it means generally, but it sounds like you're using it as a technical term.
PennDOT has what they call design manual part 4, which literally, calibration is just file right here. 1,084 pages, and it tells you how you have to submit plans and do everything else. In their appendix Q, they've got a streamlined version for the type of work that we're doing on Green Mountain Bridge. So it cuts out all the fat, and we can proceed like a normal project like we do. Okay, so that was good news to me.
That is good.
We did a small minor review, which you're gonna be looking at a little bit later in the lot consolidation plan, and I can report that Shawnee Headhunter is moving forward with trying to get the land developers agreement in place. He submitted to our office his cost estimate for site improvements, which we're in the process of reviewing right now.
And you're reviewing the site improvement costs that he has listed against the 2005 requirements.
That is correct.
Okay. And if there,
Using today's cost, though.
of course, but if there's, do you also review in that process whether he has all the easements required to make all those improvements?
That will be reviewed prior to the signing and recording of the limbs, yes. With the exception of outside agency requirements, there's court cases, which if Ron were here, he would tell you that you can't hold up a plan because of outside firms.
Outside from the county, but he will be signing some attestation saying that he has the easements required.
Yes.
Starting to sound like Leo DeVito.
Me?
No, not him.
Oh.
From Poker the other day on the SBA. Okay, great. Anyone have any questions?
When do you expect that review to be finished?
Same question Ted asked me. Probably next week.
And if there's any. But when does the document get signed or there's an attestation?
Well, this is a small part. I listed it because it's in my engineer's report. The meat and potatoes is in Ron's office. As far as the developers agreement goes and all.
That's the one where he signs.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. That'll take a little longer.
This developers agreement that you're talking about, what is that comprised? I mean, is that saying he's going to abide by what the 05 requirements are?
Correct. It would say that among other things, yes.
Because there's a lot of things in that 05 plan that need to be addressed, if he's addressing them.
You're correct.
It spells that out, what outside approvals are needed before it can actually proceed.
Like access to the property,
Correct.
right, because right now it's landlocked. You can't get in from Hollow Road,
Suppose.
Correct.
he cannot.
From already cannot, right now, my understanding
So
is
he's
it's from
moving on
Shelby
with the
Valley.
developer's certificate when he doesn't even have access to the property.
That's not how it works, so.
No.
No, what I'm saying is that, you know, there's no developer certificate, there's the agreement. You can get an agreement and still not be able to do what you're gonna do. That's the outside approvals that John mentions. Of course, that includes, you know, for some reason, let's say you didn't get the conservation district or PennDOT or something like that. You know, you can't actually start until you have all those steps in. So the agreement itself just formalizes what is needed, it doesn't necessarily indicate that it's all completed. That only
Able
happens
to
when
be
you,
reviewed at some point, once he's reviewing it, right? John's
And
reviewing it?
Ron is reviewing the legal
Correct.
parts.
We review it, Ron and myself, we review it on behalf of the township to make sure that it meets any and all requirements. In the township ordinances and any and all. Agreements that he has made with the township during the approval process. I mean, for example, the township. And I don't know these off the top of my head, I'm just giving you an example, the township. Probably included certain conditions during the approval process. When they gave him his final approval.
Correct.
We're making sure that he takes care of every one of those conditions. But like I said, we can only look out for the township. If he needs a permit from PennDOT to access the property, he can have all our approvals and he still can't start until he gets his access permit from PennDOT.
because you can't record anything until you're completed with all those approvals.
Yeah, but remember last time you said he was looking for, how does he go about getting it recorded?
Yes, he has some questions and they're procedural, they're not. It doesn't have anything to do with the project, it was a procedural, how does he go about doing it, so.
So you're,
Those documents don't come back to us, right?
Oh, yes,
For signature?
yes,
Oh, okay, right.
as long as you guys are looking out for us. Township residents,
They are, let me let there be no doubt about that. I
because
mean,
there's a lot in that 05 that, I don't know, he should know.
And our
Fact
engineer and
findings of fact.
our engineer and our solicitor are well aware that
All those
supervisors
findings of
have
fact.
requested to make sure that every single thing that's in the 2005 plan is indicated in any such agreement.
that goes to the county. Anything else?
I have nothing else, if there's no other questions.
All right. Great. Julia,
I already mentioned the Green Light Go reimbursement that we received. We also received a $240,000 grant reimbursement for Marshall's Falls. So phase one is finally officially complete. Hoorah, and we get to move forward with that. Lastly, our team has been hard at work. And I am excited to announce that as of today, all of our Board of Supervisors minutes from 1972 forward are available for your review on eCode in all of your spare time. We also have all of our resolutions up and we're about 3/4 of the way through all of our ordinances. And we've started digging through the planning commission and the auditor's minutes as well. And that's all I've got.
Great. Yes, because there's hundreds each, so.
Just kind of quick question as it relates to the Marshall's Falls, where does where we stand, I know there's funding received for the knocking down of the building that is
Yes.
kind of dangerous.
So we just spoke with the conservation district and one of the holdups for being able to knock down that building was because it wasn't part of our original chapter 102 permits. After discussions with MCCD, they are looking at this project and they are going to allow us to treat it as a separate project. So we don't need to go through all of the permitting just to take down the house. So we have phase two funding to the tune of $367,000 from an LSA grant, as well as $40,000 that we received from the redevelopment authority in order to start this project. Right, so it's not any actual additional funding from the township for that. But those are where we are right now. We are expecting a proposal from John's firm by the end of the week. Or excuse me, from another firm by the end of the week, because we wanted to be able to provide you two. And we're going to, as we're looking at taking down that house, because unfortunately it's in really bad condition. We're looking at how we can preserve the character. There's some beautiful woodwork on the side, maybe we can keep that, and we're looking into ways that we can honor the house and the history of it, even as we remove it for safety reasons.
Thanks.
Supervisors, comments? I don't have anything today either. So, see the old business. We have a discussion on road safety easements and liquid fuels funding. Robert, you wanted to speak to?
Yeah, let me bring you up to date on this because it's been around for quite a while. It was back in September 2023 that one of the HOAs put in some non-standard speed bumps, which were causing all kinds of problems. That is Debbie knows from Bushville ambulance, they were considered dangerous for a lot of reasons. And we started looking at the idea of how we could bring up safety standards on all roads, whether they're HOAs or whether they're township roads, the same level of safety, which is really PennDOT's rules for anything from crosswalks to signage to speed humps to road repairs, anything like that. And so it's been a struggle a long way trying to figure out a way to do this, because what we didn't want to do was do something that was punitive. We didn't want to punish the HOAs. We didn't want to punish the people who live there. And in Smithfield, we have about 10 HOAs, so probably that's about 1,200 families, something like that. And we're looking for a way, both in consulting with an outside attorney and also in sessions with our solicitor, Ron. What we came up to seems like the best possibility is if we can construct an easement for road safety. In other words, what we could do possibly is to say, okay, we'll negotiate an easement with each HOA saying that if they want to grant us the right to advise and consent on any road improvement, we will submit their mileage, let's say it's 2 miles or something, to along with our own estimate for reimbursement from the liquid fuels fund. The liquid fuels is a fund that is created with the gasoline taxes in Pennsylvania every year, and it's divided among municipalities. So right now we have 54 miles. Well, let's say we have one HOA, maybe we've got 2 miles, we could add 2 miles if the roads are up to the standards that are required, which is a 33-foot right of way, a 16-foot cartway or roadway, and a length of over 250 feet. Anyway, so the way forward, we're going to go forward, I think, is to try one of these with an HOA and see if we can negotiate something we're both happy with. And if we do, at that, we don't have any decision to make now. The decision would come when we get the easement, and then it would be a resolution to say, let's try this. And then we try it with our liquid fuels estimate that we put in every January, and see what the result is. And I drafted a tentative easement, what it would say. And I have in entering into an easement for road safety with the township, the HOA will agree to follow advice and consent of township specifying current township and PennDOT rules and best practices for any road safety improvement issue. Once the repair is finished, the township engineer will sign off on its successful completion, and the township will release to the HOA that portion of the current year's liquid fuels fund pro rata with accepted road mileage within the HOA. This amount is intended to cover or contribute to the approved project cost. The sign-off approval of said improvements or repairs by the township engineer will serve as the sole legal responsibility of the township for HOA road safety. So something like that. There's questions, and I can't answer them, and in several conversations with our solicitor, we may be on solid ground, we may not, because in the act in 1966, which specifies liquid fuels, the only phrase that's used about what the township can do and what they can't do on roads is to say they're legally responsible. Well, if the idea that we're only responsible since this is an easement for safety concerns, and we're signing off only on that, satisfies that, then we're all right. If it doesn't, then it's a question of how we either negotiate with PennDOT and liquid fuels, or if we challenge them, I don't know. But it's an area where we're pioneering. No one has done this in the state. Yet it seems like this is a natural extension of where we are with private and public roads, and trying to have standards that fit for both. And also there is no definition anywhere that I can find of what a public road is. It seems to be a road that the public uses, as opposed to a private road, which is something that's gated or is on your property and the public either can't use or has to have permission to use. So my feeling is we should try it and see. We don't even have to make a decision for a resolution until we see if we get a reasonable amendment. Reasonable easement in the language of it. And at that point, we can decide if we want to go forward. Either it works or it doesn't. We don't know. If it works, it will be each of the 10 HOAs that we have here.
I have two things on that. I think we should speak to Senator Brown. Senator Brown. And
Yeah, I
one of our legislative liaisons, whom can get the most direct and fastest answer from PennDOT, faster than liquid
I
fuels
agree.
themselves.
In other words, I tried her in Tara. Neither of them had much of an opinion, but I think if I go to Rosemary and go through this whole thing, she'll understand what we're doing and have an opinion, and also know if something she wants to get behind.
Well, I think it's specifically something you need to ask if they can contact their person at the department rather than You know, the look and feel person that we have on the ground is proving, stuff we already own. And the other thing is, with an easement, I think you still have to have fair market value on that. I don't know how you can figure out what the fair market value of the safety easement is. I would like to think it's $1 and not, anything we owe them to get money for them.
I would agree, and where it gets complex also, you say, who does she know at PennDOT? This is the do's and don'ts of municipal liquid fuels funds, this is a website that says. Deed or dedication of road or street, okay, well, that's what PennDOT says, but that's not in the, in the law that was passed. It has nothing, it's nowhere in the law, does it say anything like that, so it's like, on one side, you have PennDOT kind of deciding what they would like, I think, and how they interpret it, and the other side is what the law says. And as we know from other instances, one of the things you never do is, if you're negotiating, let's say, with a labor union, you never ask them what they think the standards in the contract say, because they'll give you their interpretation. Go with a lawyer, labor lawyer who looks at the contract and says, no, it's this, this, and this, and that's kind of where we are here, but I think you're right, Jacob, I think it's this conversation with Rosemary.
I think that's the easiest route because then that's gonna tell you whether or not it's even possible. I'm sure someone else is trying to speak. Usually what happens is you can get an easement for something or dedication, you fix it and then it's yours. You don't usually get to give it back.
Well, except here you're saying what's yours is the standards that you just imposed.
You just have to delineate though.
Yeah.
What is the difference between safety versus general maintenance?
Yes, definitely.
Like potholes everywhere is obviously beyond general maintenance, but also it can't be construction, because some of these HOAs, we should figure out. Do they even have, cartways that are they paved at all, or are they dirt? Because the ones with the dirt, I don't wanna get an easement for that.
The only ones that would qualify are roads that meet the standards now, which is, a cartway of 16 feet. The right of way of 30 feet, 3 feet, and more than 250 feet in length. And if they end in a cul-de-sac, it has to be 40 feet in width. So if it doesn't meet that, that's why I say it's whatever roads would qualify for the HOA.
Well, we can collect that data and present that before we go to. Because if we can figure out which ones are candidates, then figure out exactly, some sort of estimate.
But I'm using the test here in Shawnee Valley because they have a few roads that are like that, so we can say that. We could also use Twin Lakes, their roads, I think, are up to standards.
Well,
But it's, to me, it's like trying to learn and just see if we can get an easement easement language that works for both sides. But I think you're right, I'll have a conversation with Rosemary. We don't have to do anything else.
no, at least the data will be good to have too. Because then that's another separate problem, which you can get money for road construction. It's just the municipality's usually not gonna get that in the existing place, but these associations can theoretically apply for funds for that.
You mean it like multimodals?
Yeah. They can apply for things like that, I mean, cause I've had this type of conversation with other municipalities in my other job and. The key with multimodal is you're not just building something that one car can go, you literally have to have multiple ways of transportation. And it can't just be, a junk road, you can't just pave your dirt road with a scratch code and say there, boom. You want it to be that's 3 inch thick,
And of course, there's major and minor construction. I think multimodal would be great for paving a road, but for this kind of stuff. Right now, we get about 6,000 a mile from
Yes.
so what are they gonna get? $12,000? They can do a lot for that, but they can't pave a road for that.
No. Well, if you wanna go data hunting and figure out which ones actually meet the standards. And John, I knew that you had examined a bunch of the roads, I want to say in Lake Ohio at one time. In the last 2 or 3 years.
Longer than that.
Yeah.
Yes.
We already own the main road and make all of this, probably one of the few that we qualify. So,
Right, beyond that one, but do any of the side roads qualify or are they close?
Well, I don't think I can answer that, Jacob.
Most of them improved paths from what?
Some are pretty, yes.
Yeah.
I was asked to look at it against township standards. I can tell you that the liquid fuel standards are less stringent in the township standards. Matter of fact, there are gravel roads that can qualify for liquid fuels.
Same rate? Same rate of
I don't know what the rate is, but I do know, I believe the minimum width is 15 feet, that would be the travel way. And I do believe it can be gravel, but beyond that, I don't know. My point being, there are lesser standards than the township requires.
Well, we don't intend to keep them, but more or less give them back and say, okay, this is safer and now the easement was worth it. Then they'll at least be up to state standards theoretically. Cause I don't think there are any candidates other than maybe Shawnee Valley Drive, which the township, I think, mistakenly didn't take the application years ago. There's gonna be very few candidates that are only a few $1,000s away from being considered, up to our spec.
Right. I would agree
There's
with
gonna be
that.
very few potential conversions after this. Alright. Well, now you know what to look for.
okay, let's move on.
Alright. We've been talking about lighting for a while, and Alex has been working with the planning commission and a couple other groups to put together an update, and he's provided a pretty comprehensive one. I'll let you explain what you need from us now.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thanks, and to the rest of the board. So the planning commission last month recommended the board of supervisors take a look at this. What you have in your packet are 2 proposed new chapters. You have one for outdoor lighting standards and another for enforcement. And you'll have another document which specifies the standards in the saldo and the sections in the saldo and the standards and the sections in the zoning ordinance, which identify outdoor lighting and would be modified to simply reference the new standards which are proposed in the outdoor lighting standards chapter. So,
Say that again, the modifications to the saldo would take all the requirements out and just say it's required as per the zoning chapter on lighting? Okay, can you do it that way?
Not that up to one. You can, I believe you can, yeah, an ordinance. I think our stormwater management ordinance, or I know some townships stormwater management ordinances where it that way.
Sits in zoning and then saldo references it to zoning? Okay,
Or it's a standalone ordinance.
but the suggestion is put this in their zoning,
the suggestion is to have this as a standalone
so
chapter
it's standalone chapter, not under zoning, okay,
and then reference it in zoning. So like, for example.
and reference it in saldo.
So does it get referenced in both? Is there any waivability of any requirements if it's strict, or is there like more or less a formula that dictates that? Or is it just universal across the board?
I believe it would be, it's a good question.
Like, if taking it out of saldo means it's not gonna be something you, when you submit your land development plan, you're not gonna be able to waive those requirements like you would a traditional saldo waiver.
I think you could, but I think the complication now that you mentioned it, Jacob, would be if the zoning references it at the same time, then you would need a variance
So let's go to zoning here, Gordon.
because of it being referenced by the, unless it's crafted to say that the board of commissioners. If the zoning section that refers it to the lighting is states that the board of commissioners can grant certain waivers, and I've seen that, I think we have it in our own ordinance right now.
Or
In other
supervisors.
areas, yes, for the supervisors can grant waivers to that. And that might get you around it. Again, we're getting into Ron's territory,
Yeah,
but I do remember seeing that even in our own ordinances here, that you are given some leeway over some zoning issues as the board.
okay. I noticed that way on height in certain zones. We can go from 45 to 55 at our discretion.
Yep.
Yeah, sure. So my understanding, we went down this path and I'm all for it. Because right now, lighting requirements exist in land development and Saldo, but they don't exist in zoning, correct? So therefore, they're only enforceable when someone goes to build something new. Correct?
So if they're only in Saldo, yes, that's
Correct.
my understanding, you can only enforce it with a brand new
But
development.
right now, there's surface in the township where there's light that's bleeding all over the place.
And there's
Delaware Water Gap is, not Delaware Gap, but the one that's right on the border there, that I always complain about across from our lights are blinding. Is one example.
But we can enforce the standalone ordinance, and we can enforce, but if it's not in zoning, we can't enforce it, so right now, we don't have a standalone lighting ordinance,
Correct.
and it's not in zoning.
Okay, so then I guess my next question is. Do we know? How much is different from in this, because I mean, I've seen this, but I haven't, gone back and forth like I have with the signage ordinance that we're working on. From this new standalone, from what already exists in the Saldo.
Quite a bit more detail in your standalone than your current Saldo standards for land development submissions.
Okay, and also that Saldo, that lighting was written long ago and all the LED stuff wasn't too still. Okay.
Right.
I guess I would just say, I mean, I think before I know there's a suggestion to bring this up to the planning commission, but. We should make sure that what you just mentioned, Jacob, is. Feasible before we have
Right.
someone else review it. I'm not saying we'll hold it up, but.
No, I agree.
Is that a question for Ron?
Well, Ron has been, it has been discussed at the planning commission, Ron is well aware of it, and he believes. That it's doable.
Yeah, because I want it to be treated the same way as like a stormwater waiver. Which we'll often do at the same time as the Saldo and stuff.
I think we've got to bring up a particular point, at least the light bulb that went off in my head when you said zoning refers to it.
Right,
To me, my point of view, the zoning refers to it, that locks you into it unless there's some mechanism where you can be given the
right,
flexibility.
because then is it by being referenced there, is it a presumption that it's a rebuttable presumption effectively in front of the zoning hearing board rather than the board of supervisors?
I would say yes, unless the language says otherwise.
Right. So maybe that's a good disclaimer to. Nothing in this section shall be construed to, include the right to challenge this or whatever through ZHB or a variance, so it's like at least not legislative intent. I don't think Eric Koopman would have any thoughts on that informally before we rewrite all of this.
I wouldn't speak for Eric, but I would say that the committee that put this together, which was comprised of myself and Scott. When we asked about some of the legal, he said, you need to talk to your attorney, and so, you can condition, And so, I think I would agree that with the board as well, and I think we need to have a conversation with your attorney. And I'd be happy to meet, if you wanna do it, or however you wanna
I
do
trust it, we just have to make sure that there's language that says that we. That this is waivable by the board of supervisors and doesn't go to see, kind of like when we amended the stormwater ordinance. More recently.
Can that just go as a caveat to the Monroe County Planning Commission when we ask for formal review?
I'm just wondering, like, if I'm hearing what you're saying correctly, you think that should be written into the ordinance itself to make it crystal clear that it's not going to go to a different board.
This is
Because
what,
we don't wanna create variances and have to spend additional money to have something that would be waivable by the board, but enforceable. You know, much easier than the existing lighting standards, which are only for something that's constructed, so.
this is lost in the haze of my brain from last spring. Didn't we pass the dark skies amendment?
This is the. Oh, continue, sorry.
This is incorporating it.
This is like, we had that discussion, this is kind of a blend between some of the other ordinances in Monroe County that have really good standards in their zoning ordinance. And south for lighting and some of the features that township liked about the dark sky model, so like in your packet, you have.
Maybe I missed
The
it,
images that help.
maybe I missed it, but is there anything in here when we're talking about, color temperature for outside lighting?
Yes, Robert, so on page 7, there's a. As per your suggestion, there's a standard on lighting temperature. And
Page 7, I see the chart.
yeah, and so that's also in the. Now we're getting a little bit into the weeds, but I'm happy to do that. In the actual standards themselves, it's referenced how
I
that.
didn't see it, but that's for outdoor lighting, right?
Yeah, it doesn't control anything inside.
Don't show me where it is.
Just to be clear, the other thought that Alex, you mentioned earlier is that. Lighting in terms of signage will be taken care of in the signage ordinance itself and not part of this.
That's correct, Jacob, and then back to Robert on page 24. It says no outside lighting sources shall exceed a color temperature of 3,500 Kelvin, which is kind of like right in the middle there.
Yeah.
To be
That's reasonable.
reasonable, yeah. Et cetera, that's not the end of it, but that's basically,
Yeah.
the intent is to minimize sky glow, interference, with circadian rhythms. Of the public and also minimize impacts to nocturnal, non-human animals.
So like page 1 of the second section on Salvo posts modification of code of ordinance chapters, and a lot of these lines say like. There's like notes and stuff, so is this still in draft format? Okay,
This is that's correct, sir.
at what point do the Monroe County Planning Commission formally review some, are we asking them to just informally review this? Or is that what this?
I mean, I don't think this is not like advertisable ready, like I don't think it's. Nearly
No.
close to that, but this is more like. They won't just do it if we just email it to them. We kind of have to
We
say,
just say, can you please do this, but not make it formal?
Yes.
That's all we're doing right now, okay.
yes, and the paperwork is identical, so. Why we have to do that, I don't know.
So, because we don't even, we actually started talking about, so we didn't have a motion on the table, we don't do a motion on the
Oh,
table.
well, this was just a discussion, or did I
It says consider.
consider, sorry, yeah. I mean, I would be fine. With that, I'll entertain.
Well, I'll make a motion that we request an informal review of the working draft of the outdoor lighting standards and what's it called?
Will they do that?
And the draft proposed modifications to code of ordinance chapters related to lighting by the Monroe County Planning Commission.
One second.
I have a motion by Mr. Hopper and a second by Mr. Loving,
So,
further discussion.
yeah, so. I mean, I'm all for, I do think we've seen examples where. There's been challenges for lighting, people have added lights that. Wasn't part of the development and. Doesn't seem like we have any way to enforce it, so I'm all about adding this. I guess, I just wanna make sure. Yeah, it's not too crazy.
Yeah, too crazy. Okay, all right, anything else? All in favor?
Some comments.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, on the consent agenda, we have consideration of adopt official zoning act for ordinance number 251. Consideration to approve the waiver request by Bushville Emergency Board for the 2023-2024 audit. Consideration to adopt the resolution number 557, the designation procedure for noise control officers, which confirms the motion made in our most recent Board of Supervisors meeting. Consideration to approve the solicitor's correspondence to Blue Ridge Cable regarding the cable franchise fee. And the consideration to approve the resolution number 568, which I think the fee schedule. And I'm noting the park fee changing to $10, at least for the duration of the rest of the season. For those that are out of county. And that is it for the consent agenda. Do you want to hear a motion by Mr. Loveenheim? Do I hear a second?
I'll start.
Mr. Out there? Question?
What, the official map, what is happening? What's different?
That was the change with,
This is following up on the passage of ordinance 251 related to the zoning change from residential to M1 at the airport.
Oh,
So when you passed that ordinance, you had a small snapshot of what was changing. We got those big maps from Eric, so they were ready for your
the
signature.
map said, okay, gotcha, okay. And on the approval for Bushkill. That's saying not an audit, but a review is required.
and it notes the plan for the full audit the next fiscal year, which they're ready to do so.
I don't know that I saw a solicitor letter for Blue Ridge Cable. Is it drafted yet?
There is not one in there. At the last meeting, Ron requested that you approve him formally at a meeting to send that letter. So that's still in the process and waiting, but this is the formal approval, excuse me, that he requested at the last meeting.
No, we don't do it retroactive.
Gotcha. And then. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
My questions for you.
Anyone else?
Yes, I do too.
The resolution 567, the designation procedure,
Yes.
what, can you talk about what that procedure
Sure, it
is?
allows the township manager to designate other professionals, so when we made that motion to allow her to designate individuals. This basically formalizes that, so none of that happened in between the last meeting.
Okay, okay. And do the officers need to be employees of the township or can residents
I mean,
volunteer or?
you can,
request
so
to be?
the ordinance already empowers the private citizen to file a complaint themselves if they so choose.
But, well, it's filing a complaint, but what about to be a noise control officer? Can a resident be a noise control officer at the whim of the township manager?
I believe the ordinance states in the definition of the noise control officer that you are required to be an employee or a consultant for the township.
Okay.
So feasibly, if that resident had a consulting business and did this sort of thing, I believe so.
Right.
I mean, technically, that would mean if you gave any individual a 1099 and paid them $5, if that's what they wanted, you could do that. But that's the ordinance. We want to make sure we stick to the ordinance because the ordinance takes a long time to update.
Sure.
Thought was like, with the parks enforcement, it was exactly the same type of things. Because they are not employees
Right,
as state constables.
right. Okay. Well, thank you.
Right,
Regarding the noise control, if a business has, like a regular hour where they broadcast through a PA system, and they do it every week, do they, and it bleeds through the neighborhood, do they have to ask for a permit? How does that work? We have a neighbor who's a mile away, and they have a regular time where they broadcast on PA, we can hear it across the valley. So I'm just curious, would they
is
have,
that a business?
yeah, it's a swimming pool,
Oh,
yeah, and they have, and we can hear them. And so do they need to, is it legal just to have, what do they call it, audio trespass?
No, I mean, this is designed for that, but no, and typically. I mean, something like that's typically not gonna go through land development approval process, because that's not. Improvement, but I guess that's something we can look at.
I think
And
the answer is, if you believe that they were going above the. What is 65 during certain hours and 55 during other hours, then you could file a complaint.
Okay. And if I may, can I briefly address or ask a question about the lighting thing? Sure, sorry, it's already passed.
It's
Well, it's just has to get reviewed.
Yeah.
Okay. If I'm correct, if I'm wrong, they're saying there are standard codes for lighting and there are also codes for new lighting, is that correct? So if a business has had lighting in for a long time and they're within variance. And the new variance, I don't know.
So the way, right now, we have all sorts of rules around. Or laws around. What sort of lights you can put when you're building something new, because it's in our land development ordinance. But it does not exist outside of that, which means. If you already have your building built and you decide you wanna put a light bulb in an existing light that's like crazy bright and. Is distracting and leads onto your property into your back window, even if it's against what would be allowed in the SAL though, it's not enforceable. So the whole idea was to create a standalone ordinance that meant someone couldn't do that.
So like an an outlet that's been there for 10, 15 years. With incandescent bulbs, they put an LED in there, it's gonna apply to the original code, or is it gonna come on
This
this?
is gonna be a bunch of whole new regulations. In keeping with new ordinances that are going on across the state, in line with new LED
This
lights.
is like health and safety effectively, it's not like a zoning rule or a salary rule any longer under this proposed change. So it falls under a policing power and not the traditional appealable, stuff that you go to the zoning hearing board with.
If, I guess the simplest way I could ask is, you have an old bulb fixture and you convert it to LED. Is there a conversion? Do you have to register a conversion? Is that required? New light? How does that work?
It just means that if that new bulb is in infraction to these rules, we would be allowed to do that. And that'll probably mean it's like, for the most part, a glaring light on somebody else's property. Right. For the most part, that in very general terms.
And all new lighting with new construction will have to follow these rules by default, so it avoids, what you might think of as. What technically before this is probably an existing non-conformity or something with lighting, now becomes regulated, whether from general county.
30 pages, so general to say, you don't want lights to bleed onto your neighbor's property.
Yeah,
All right,
people will be naming their children Kelvin after this ordinance.
thank you.
Alright, anything else? All in favor?
What are we doing? We got distracted, that's right. Oh, right, consent agenda. Yeah, okay, thanks. Sorry.
All good. Aye.
Alright,
Next, the consideration of adopt resolution number 569, the lot joiner first road on properties LLC. John has reviewed this and I believe we're all set on that unless you tell me otherwise.
That was a rather simple lot joiner. It's 3 very small lots, actually 4 two parts of the thing and the. And we're just combining them to make them.
is there any buildings on them?
No.
No buildings on them?
No.
And when we join lots, we don't require anything to be done, like any.
I mean, if you were to try to develop it, you would then have to submit. Well, depends what he's gonna do there, but if it were anything commercial, you have to submit a land development plan. And then go through the process. It is in the economic. Development.
It's probably the most straightforward one we've had in a long time. Alright, do I hear a motion on resolution 569?
Make a motion to approve resolution 569 to.
All second, any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And next, the consideration to execute a contract for Laserfish. Julia received 4 quotes, the best 2 are in here, and I will let you tell us which one is the best. Note that they are professional services and not subject to competitive bidding.
Sure,
And can you
so-
start with what this is for?
Sure, so this is a request for the township to get a program called Laserfish, which is a data management system. We currently have Trino, which was then bought out by DocuPhase, and unfortunately, the usability of the system isn't there. You cannot click on a document and drag it to somewhere else and drop it. And it is creating a huge slowdown in our processes. It just isn't working for us. As a result of that, we've done research into Laserfish, which is going to allow us to upload things a lot easier. We'll be able to do metadata metrics, so we'll be able to find what we have in our system a lot easier. And it comes with OCR scanning too, which they're still developing, but we've got a much better chance of being able to find documents when they're not necessarily named correctly either.
This is for which files though?
All of them?
Eventually.
Don't we have, I'm sorry, we were using E code for ordinances.
For our
We're
ordinances.
using what for our board, that's also code.
Yep, and eventually the plan is to eventually write comprehensive plans on there and whatnot, but those are public facing documents. Laserfish is going to be our repository for everything. So once we move over, yes, all of our minutes, all of our resolutions and all of our ordinances will be in here. But this will also be where we maintain all of our contracts, all of our zoning documents, all of our land development files will be in this system.
Permits as well.
Yes.
This allows us to go essentially paperless after a time.
Again, it just seems like it's a lot for. I mean, I don't know the challenges you've had, but like, where you can get Microsoft SharePoint for whatever, $500 a year.
No, so this.
Tell me that, you know, why
So
we're
the
spending.
the state standard, you have to keep like 1 copy or X number of copies. So they have one that, you know, we can access, there's their read-only one, and then there's one that is in the cloud. All of those are acceptable for the Commonwealth for document keeping. You can't keep these types of things typically in your SharePoint. They don't count if there's a data like that or something like this. So it's a liability thing. And it also is a physical storage thing.
The other point of this is that Laserfish has the opportunity for us to digitize our permits. And so what I mean by that is we will eventually, not right away, it's going to take us time to build it. But we'll have a public facing portal where if you want to apply for a zoning permit, you can apply online. Attach any documents you need and hit the submit button. From there, it will go, let's say to Ken will take a look at it and say approved. Or not approved, or approved with changes. Laserfish will automatically draft the permit for us and send it out to the constituent if we would like. So we're looking at a huge time saver as far as admin goes with this as well. And we can do that with everything from all of our permits to any complaints to the garden plots that we have available. And it's going to create processes where also, Michael, let's say you needed to approve something. I can make the system automatically remind you in a week to say, hey, you haven't taken action on this, this is still pending. So even if our staff gets busy, we will have a docket of to-dos that is virtual. So for example, the number of papers sitting in front of me, we won't lose anything because it'll be automatically in the system.
But hold on, so to be clear, the whole, most of what we have is already in the system. So what exists has to be parked somewhere in perpetuity.
The scope of work also says that they're going to upload 8 cabinets of data, so they'll do that as well, parts.
That upload is from taking the metadata that they'll have from DocuPhase, turning it, adding our new metadata metrics to it and bringing it back into the system.
It's transferring from DocuPhase.
Yes,
It says 8 cabinets, so I was saying.
yeah, DocuPhase organizes our data by cabinets.
Yeah, it's not a physical cabinet.
Okay. Okay,
to,
I mean, that's a great deal, if you can have someone go through 8 cabinets and manually, but.
I mean, it's much more than what 8 physical cabinets would have. I will say that.
Okay.
yeah, we've, Diana has been working her tail off, and we've got almost, 40 gigabytes of data on our system now. When she started, I believe we were at 29, 28. Something like that, but this will allow us to shift over to the system. I did put the 2 best quotes in the packet for you. The ScanTech one comes out a little bit better. They're about $1,000 cheaper at the end, with implementation and whatnot. The only, they are a little bit more expensive in the long run. But one thing to consider, the contract is for 3 years. And after talking with ScanTech, our DocuPay subscription runs out at the end of August. So as of September 1, they're not going to support us anymore unless we renew for a whole nother year, which is going to cost us almost $4,000.
Right now, we're paying $4,000 a year.
Yes, I think, it's about $4,000 a year, please don't quote me on that.
And this is 3,600 a year plus a bunch of other extra stuff at the beginning, is that right? Am I reading that right?
Bunch of one-time implementation stuff, and then if we end up having issues after implementation, they will sell us, professional time in, I believe it's 5-hour blocks.
Yeah, I see that.
My only question is there anything for less than 100 users?
No, the way that Laserfish works is that they do a whole municipal system for 100 users. And then I think once you hit 10,000 people, or excuse me, 20,000 people in your township, then it can jumps and you can do individuals, but you can do individuals if you want to, but this is.
Well, 'cause I know with the previous system, when it was easier for like discovery purposes and in litigation, we were able to utilize that system, and it sounds like we can do the same with this. It's where you can limit what they have access to, basically, so all the pertinent stuff and how it, or whatever. There's no way that it's cheap, they have to give us 100.
We can pay for 5 licenses, but it's gonna be the same price, because the
alright.
deal that they do for municipalities.
Kind of unlimited.
And this is, their storage is obviously backed up,
storage.
and they're approved by
Yes.
state as, so if everything goes to hell and they lose everything.
It's their fault.
Keep 3 copies.
No, we're required to keep 3 copies, so even if one does get corrupted or something happens, we should have additional backups that are entirely separate from that. The last thing that I wanted to get into with this, ScanTech has promised us that they'll be able to pull our data before the end of the month, and they'll have us up. We'll have probably about a week where things are going to be a little bit weird getting to our files, but we should have access to our zoning files no later than the September 6th. With the other proposal by Top Copy, they have told us that they'll be able to get implementation up by the middle of October. So I would recommend going with ScanTech because they are about $1,000 cheaper on the initial setup, and we'll be able to have access to our files faster. Their cost for that's about it.
Well, I mean, obviously we have the 4,000 in our budget because it was an ongoing cost, but then there's the extra. It's like double almost, is that right? Extra 5,000, is that on the budget?
Yes, and you guys put it in the budget for laser, for an upgrade in capital improvements for this year.
Those budgeted.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve, to execute contract with the ScanTech Laserfish.
Motion by Bill Barry, do I hear a second?
Second.
Any questions? Christine?
Julia, are Laserfish and ScanTech, are they different companies or,
Yes,
and so what, can you explain who does what? Like, how are they related? Why ScanTech does what?
ScanTech is the company that's going to pull our information off of DocuPace, reset all of the metadata, put it all back in, build our system in Laserfish, build all of our forms in Laserfish, and then train all of our staff members on how to.
Sounds like Laserfish is software.
I was gonna say, consider the Laserfish to be the
Right,
WordPress
so-
and the website is.
ScanTech is the middleman, they're gonna get you into Laserfish. Got it. And the documents, all the old minutes and agendas and whatnot that Diana's been working on, will they go into Laserfish as well now?
Yes, they're not going to leave E-code. The idea of having them on E-code is that those are public information anyway. so
Right.
Why not just have them accessible? But for our retention purposes, Laserfish is going to be a repository for everything.
Do we have to keep things forever? I mean, like, I know most people are
Some,
about thinking, keeping things for 7 years for their financials and stuff, but municipalities have to keep them.
it depends. The municipalities are guided by a document that's called the Records Retention Law. So that goes through every piece of document and explains how long you need to keep it. Minutes, for example, we have to keep forever. Vendor information on a bill that we paid to John, for example, we need to retain that for 7 years and then it can be disposed of.
Okay,
Workers' comp stuff is 4 years, but that,
doesn't mean we have to throw it away.
it doesn't mean we have to, but it provides you a mechanism to do so. And anything in there is for the original document only. For example, if I have 20 copies of something that is in the manual that I can destroy after 5 years, I can throw 19 of those copies in the trash without having to do anything. The records manual only retains and comes into play when you are preparing to destroy the only original.
Okay.
Anything? All in favor?
Alright,
Aye. And we'll go to public comment.
Very briefly, something we talked about at the VAC this last week, as we regards to community outreach. The idea was perhaps have on the website, have a tab that says get involved. Anybody who wants to help out in the township that we don't already know, we might be able to list all the available openings that we're seeking for volunteers, whatever we need. People could immediately go and get involved, and we would collect email addresses, trying to get everybody's email address we can. But it might be a simple widget on the website.
Sure.
Outreach.
Yeah, I mean, we're working on that. Fortunately, at the moment, we are at our full complement with all the existing boards, thankfully. But definitely when it comes out, because I think we've got very few resumes because someone saw the ad in the open record or something, so you're on something on that.
Yeah. Anything's good, events that are coming up that we need extra help.
All that's up.
All right. And sound officers or light officers.
I would update that given.
Yeah, anyway,
Robert's that now.
That's my point. Okay, thank you.
Pilot.
Hello. Back to the noise ordinance. I just wanted to ask on the enforcement part, if the fines have been determined by the supervisors. I know it says
we do.
not to
Yes.
exceed 1,000 per violation.
Correct, that part's set by the state,
Okay.
but our fines,
I think we did the same day, didn't we?
yeah, but ours are in. Yeah, first violation in a calendar year is $50, the second is $250, and third and subsequent are $500
Okay,
per the fee schedule.
okay. And if it's beyond that, will it go up to 1,000?
No, it continues to be 500, right?
Up to 500 per occurrence, I mean, we could,
I thought it says not to exceed 1,000 per
all right,
violation.
but that's a reference to the state statute, so. No municipal fine can be more than $1,000, and at that point, you can leave it to the judge's discretion, but we set. These as the very, yeah,
Oh, I see. So any further violation, if there's one beyond the third,
well, currently third and each one after the third is 500 each.
oh, okay, all right.
We could change it, we haven't gotten that far
Okay,
yet.
all right. Am I up to 500 yet?
How many have we done now officially, Robert?
Only two.
Well, have they been,
I'll hit you.
wait, hold on, have they actually been issued? I don't think they've even been issued. The recordings have been done.
No, I've filed the complaints here.
We've got those two underway,
I'll
and then,
see you tomorrow.
yeah, and then on September 6th, separate from that, just because it's on the same thing, is the hearing for the injunction that we filed for. So I'll be there, I am required to be,
So.
testify to the document.
I wanted to see Ron tonight, because I did have like. I know you were going on safety things, I'll talk to you later that I have in my files. Safety issues, as far as I've written down every time someone was injured or medevac out of there. I didn't know if you wanted that information.
Yeah, well,
I would say send it.
Okay,
yeah, give us email, if not, I'll give that to you.
yeah, could you give it to me after the meeting? Thank you.
The two of you are going to that hearing, right?
Yes,
Robert,
But
you're going to the hearing?
what?
Are you going to the hearing?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I have to go to a sewage presentation,
So
so
two is at the air.
You're not gonna be there?
one of us has to go to a sewer presentation and he's.
All right, you're
He has,
excused.
yeah, that's it.
but I wanna let you know, it's not like, I actually had it in my agenda to go, and then all three of us got invited to go to a sewer presentation, and so I'm gonna go to the sewer presentation. There's a lot of talking about sewer.
And because of the, it's very cool, everyone loves it. I had to sign attest to the verification of the facts. That's why I have to be there, on the 6th at 9 AM. I don't know no, it's the 6th at 9 AM.
Okay.
I don't know what courtroom it's in yet, but as soon as we know, we'll let you know that as well.
Yeah, we do just,
But I'm gonna write down his email for you.
thank you. So,
Oh, yeah, I got it. Right.
Go ahead, Karen.
Just curious, so the bike park meeting is tomorrow evening. Are you guys able to post the agenda prior to the meeting?
I don't think there is an actual agenda
Yeah,
for that
I
meeting.
don't believe there isn't, like, that's it's not a,
Introductory.
like Sunshine Act meeting like this one is, like, we didn't have to advertise that that meeting is happening, there's not going to be a forum of the board. So it's a lot more informal than this formal setting that you experience here.
Okay.
Are you going to?
So,
I will be at an emergency management event, I have my knowledge and
Are you going, just cause not more than one of us can go?
Correct.
Robert,
Robert, we were on that.
you're going to that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay,
It saves-
no, tomorrow,
Yeah, I'm going there too.
okay.
I just have a question, so. It doesn't have to be, there's no agenda, but can you give an idea of like what's being discussed?
Just the objective of what the committee will do.
Yeah, it's a kickoff meeting to explain the whole process.
So nothing, in other words, should have started already.
This is the initial start. Tomorrow night will be the start.
So there was a gentleman that, when I was leaving our road to come to the meeting, was on a UTV. He had some material in the back of it, and I had encountered him when I went home. He had a chainsaw in the back as well, not a resident of our area, down there, and I have a picture of it, created a trail coming up from kind of the berm hill from the roadside onto our road, and he was putting material down to create a path. I asked him, I said, hey, can I just ask if you're at the bike park? I said, we usually don't have people on our road, and he said, yes. So he's creating a path coming over from the hill, I'm assuming for people to go up from parking to come across our road to get, assuming back to frisbee golf. But he started putting material down, and I have a photo if you'd like to see exactly where it
Yeah, that'd
is.
be good. The second any of that happens, email it to any of us, all of us.
It's all the time though, I mean, there's people cutting trees, there's people in there doing, I understand that there needs to be some maintenance, but they're creating things that have not been, to our knowledge, passed yet.
Well, and also, they shouldn't be there without township approval.
Correct, yeah, so I
We
got that, yeah.
We passed that,
Yeah.
so
this is-
and they can't be this.
Yeah,
They're daily,
Yeah,
daily. From the morning, I drive to work in the morning
So.
to when we come home at night.
We know who these people are?
He was an older gentleman, there was also a woman with him. When I came in, when I came out, he was just pulling back in.
It's in the fellow with the dog, is it?
No, it's not him.
No.
No, this was an older gentleman, he was in an orange Kubota enclosed UTV with a little dump on the back. Chainsaw.
How did you get it there?
That's a good question.
must have drove, I guess, and I asked him point blank, I said, are you at the bike park? I said, because we usually don't have people on our road, and he said, yes. So I usually don't approach people because they tend to be nasty to me, even though it's labeled as a private road. But I just wanted to know because he was back and obviously I could see what he was doing and I took a photo of it. To find out who he was with.
Yeah.
You have a picture of him?
Yeah, please send that.
I don't have a picture of him, but, cause he came in afterward, but I took a picture of what he did.
Julia, do you,
Was it Jim
where,
Sullivan?
where do we stand on the,
Older gentleman,
Older
looks
than
like
Jim?
Mr. McCormick. I thought it was Mr. McCormick, which is why I was
Like
bothered.
Ed?
It's not.
Ed.
But it wasn't him, but that's who I thought he was when I first saw him.
where do we stand on the, getting the road handed back over to the residents?
It is still very much in research phase, because this land was purchased with a grant, this is a massive.
CCNR has to,
This is going to be hundreds of hours of work. So it's gonna move slow. I'm trying, but we're still researching because if we open our mouth and say something incorrect to DCNR, we are going to be in very big trouble. So I'm moving
like, as a little bit money.
very carefully as I research this. So still working on it, but this is going to be a very big project.
Okay.
We just want the road back.
No, I know.
Can I just,
I'm sorry for interrupting again, but
the property was purchased in 2003. Yes,
I thought it was 2008.
Well, around one of the transfers.
One
yes,
of the
but
2000.
2008 is when it really began in earnest, yes.
when was it deeded? To between Smithfield and Middle Smithfield from Shawnee,
I think that's when it happened.
2003.
Okay.
We have copies.
I'm just, because it's quite a long period of time. So it was purchased all the way back then with a grant? From DCNR is my question,
Yes,
yes?
yes,
This is the road,
This is represented by me.
Oh, okay.
the
It's
road,
Grace's Landing Road.
The road, okay, yeah, private road or public road.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what we're trying to figure out. Is you looking at,
yeah, I'm just trying to find the last email from Billy that had the timeline, either that or John.
Speaking of roads.
No, no,
hold
no,
on a second.
Okay.
Stay on the subject.
Don't deviate.
John, was it you that you emailed the procedural history
Yes,
that had, cause you have the whole, I'm just trying to find that, if I can refer back to that.
you all got it. I thought I'm gonna just send it to you. Let me see if I. My phone's trying to look up numbers.
Okay, no, so I've got the emails from John, yeah, the plan from Frank Case Neck is in 2003. Good math. But like we talked about at an earlier meeting, when that was deeded over, that included the physical space of the road and just right of ingress and egress on Price's Landing. So the idea is that we'd like to give you back the physical part of the road. But because it was purchased with grant money in some fashion that I'm still researching, we need to step very carefully because DCNR has a thing that they put into everything that you are not allowed to sell the land, you're not allowed to develop it, you're not allowed to X, Y, and Z.
It has to be used for recreation or wildlife or whatever purposes in perpetuity of the land, correct?
Right.
We're not planning to do anything with it, we just want the road back.
Right.
We know that, but that might go beyond at its phase, what DCNR thinks, so that we're trying to step that line, so there's no issue giving back the road, because if this were just a random road that we wanted to give to you, like we're doing with post office road and that bridge. That's just a simple petition to vacate the road and then whoever's like along it, they get it equally, where they could take it together as a private association, etc. It would be that simple if it wasn't purchased, 21 years ago using state funds. Because the idea is when you get state money, you don't get to profit off of the, the sale of that. It's not supposed to be
Who's profiting off?
Yeah, if you just convey it back.
No, but what I'm saying is that there's no easy process to just say, okay, this was a mistake, this was never supposed to be deeded over. Like, we're trying to work that out, because DCNR is gonna say, you used our money. That's gonna be ours if you don't follow what's in the contract that we had signed, and Smithfield had signed with them. November 6th, 2003.
Well, Mike Dwyer from Middle Smithfield clearly knows that that's a private road. We've spoken to him about it, so Middle Smithfield is aware that it's.
I mean, I can appreciate that,
DCNR.
Yeah.
DCNR is your issue.
right,
Oh. You don't want them to make you pay them back.
correct.
Yeah.
There's that, or they have other options too. We just want,
They can utilize and go.
no, we're gonna get our easement for it, we're gonna be able to do that as we currently, do under current practical use. We wanna give it back, we just wanna figure out the way to do that without disturbing
Well, and
the project.
you said hundreds of hours, so I'm hoping it's not hundreds of hours.
I've already spent about 40 on this project, so I'm not expecting it to go easy. To add, we have a similar situation going on. I haven't spoken to Nate in detail, but he's dealing with this over in another township right now. And the big issue is because it's considered a conversion, because it's not going to be the township. And that's where it involves payment, or an in-kind replacement. And that's the cost that gets very complicated. They're actually in this process right now and waiting to find out what they're going to be in for. And so part of my research will be talking with him once they have that information to find out what they had to go through for that. It's not the exact same thing, but this is far more complicated. If we could just hand you the road, I'm sure that the board would sign off on it tomorrow. But the problem is because of the type of funds we used, it gets really complicated to get back.
I realize that. I must sound like a broken record. I already approached, like I said, the assessment office when this all happened. My paperwork through them. Private road, and it has since I've had my property. Since '99.
And my grandparents were there since the 70s. It's always been a private road. It's in everybody's deeds.
And
Everybody.
I don't understand how
Even mine.
after the fact. That we were there first, and then you bought the property after. That's how everything,
Somehow, when the land was conveyed to the board. Not this board, the prior board, back in 2003. The board bought the land and you guys had right for ingress and egress. I can't answer that, I wasn't around at that time, I don't know. John, I don't think for our solicitor, or excuse me, our engineer, all the way back then.
When your project was developed. And was that in the 40s, late 40s, early 50s, everywhere? You were given the right to get to that 15 lot development over this private road that we discussed,
it's the railroad bed.
correct? You were given the right by the developer who owned the current bike park track to get back to that 15 lot development. But you were traveling across his road on his property. You had the right to ingress and egress. When I say you, I'm referring to anybody who bought a lot back there, not you personally.
Those were all the people that were on Shawnee Island.
Correct.
So the 55 flood, after that was when everyone lived in Price's Landing.
So that road, that
Railroad.
railroad bed was sold by the railroad back to Mr. Price back in the 40s, I think, or something. But anyway, whoever owns that property, if I bought that property from Mr. Price, then I would have owned that road. You would still have the right to go in and out because that was given to you in your deeds and that can't be taken away.
Right.
I think where it gets complicated is the township, which is a public entity, bought the property. So does that make it a public road? That is the question. They bought the property using grant money. That's where it gets very complicated. You still have the same rights in and out as you always did. That
Yeah,
hasn't
but we
changed.
have all these people coming in now,
I understand that. I understand that.
you know, that's not
People,
secure to us
people on e-bikes,
as
people
Now,
coming down this
neighbors
river.
or residents.
Now, we could take a
The
step back,
liability.
we could take a step back and had he wanted to, Mr. Price could have let all those people come in and out too, had he wanted to, because it was his road. He could have done anything he wanted with it. It was not built for your exclusive use.
Why is it a dead end then?
Well, I don't know, but it was not built for your exclusive use. But it ended up being used that way because no one else really had much interest in going in and out at that point in time. And I don't know, I don't live there, but apparently they didn't. And now it's been discovered and a lot of people are using it, is my understanding.
I have two questions, if I may. Do you say you think your deed says that you own the road? Do you think it says that?
She owns a portion of it.
Can you share that? Cause.
I already shared it with the
I
town.
read the deeds that
The
she-
way that one works, Michael, is that the road between that starts in Turds and heads north from where Marguerite's property starts up through that is all private, there's no question there. The problem is from Marguerite's property north up to where it intersects with River Road.
Okay, okay. I just wanted to make sure, because they were saying something that sounded different from what you're saying. The other thing is, if this does take months, and is there anything that we can do to help these residents to limit use? I mean, there's going to be township easement no matter what, whether you own it or not, that was discussed. But is there anything? I mean, it sounds like the township is working towards getting there, but it might take some time. I guess I'm just wondering, is there any other mitigating
Did
things?
instruct that no one was to do any of that volunteer work without at least any notice to us, and then the staff member present.
Correct.
Because Alex has done that during the day many times with the group that's working on the bike park itself. My thought is, these individuals are the frisbee golf people that are just doing whatever, right? They're not the
They're
bikers.
opening up a lot. And
And they don't have I mean, we passed, when was that? That was back when there was that issue. Did we pass something?
Wasn't it in
Was there a
July?
resolution?
I don't.
Internal, I know we talked about, there was no like trespassing, there was like an internal policy.
Yes, and the form and all of the clauses for waivers of liability and whatnot is under review or law right now.
Okay, well, let's expedite that. Because I remember we talked about having a requirement that any volunteer anywhere in the township, but it was done for this location, they have to be approved, and we agreed that they
Well,
have
that's
to be with,
internal, that doesn't have to be voted on, actually.
correct, that they had to be with staff at any one time, so no one should be going out there. But it sounds like the waivers haven't been reviewed by the lawyers, so that has to happen as soon as possible.
Yeah, I mean, we had people down there with e-bikes this past weekend, like groups of people on e-bikes, and they come down,
through,
And they
we've been
go-
around our house.
they go all the way down, sometimes they come back out, sometimes they don't. The other road, Benical Lane, is